Hello, and welcome to One of My Stories, a podcast about the stories shaping me. Today I'm talking to two subjects from the documentary Speak, a diary of sorts of the year-long efforts of students as they prepare for the NSDA Nationals in Original Oratory competition. So with me today are Sam and Noah. Sam and Noah, welcome to One of My Stories.
Thank you. It's
Thank
good
you
to
for
be
having
here.
us.
So before we dive too deeply into this movie, please introduce yourselves to the audience. Sam, I'll ask you to start. Let us know a little bit about yourself, what part of the country you live in, interests, hobbies, and since this is a movie channel, maybe a favorite movie or show.
All right. Well, my name is Sam. I live in Moorhead, Minnesota. I'm a senior in high school, currently stressing over where I'm going to go to college. My hobbies, well, I love playing pickleball and reading in my hammock. And then my favorite show, without a doubt, is Game of
So
Thrones.
you like that epic fantasy stuff, huh?
Yes, I'm a big fan.
Okay, how about you, Noah?
I'm Noah. I'm from San Antonio, Texas. I'm a freshman in college. I also spend a lot of my time playing a racket sport. I play a lot of ping pong, and my favorite movie right now is probably the Lego Batman movie. I rewatched it with my roommate a couple nights back. It was really, really good. It held up.
Okay, so for those unfamiliar with how original oratory works, what would you say is important to know about that competition?
Yeah. Well, Original Oratory is a 10-minute persuasive speech written by the competitors. It's completely memorized, which is a little daunting. It's usually structured with a funny, maybe attention-grabbing intro, cause, effect, problem, cause, however you want to do that. And then it ends with solutions, usually two or three steps that everyone in the audience can grab onto as they leave to start implementing and fix the issue presented.
Yeah, so on that note, is an event centered around a problem. Right, so at the start and hopefully end of every OO is a problem that you see out in the world. They range from things like Sam's speech last year to about like kind of the weaponization of nostalgia to things as specific as problems in the meatpacking industry. The speech at the end of the day is about solving a problem. The way that kids go about it varies like a ton. Like Sam said, sometimes it's a story, it's an anecdote, sometimes it's all just like facts, figures, numbers. It's a 10-minute speech that's completely memorized about a problem that you want to help solve or you want to bring awareness to at least.
Mm-hmm. Some other facts about it that kind of stood out to me is that usually it relates to your personal story. And so topics can be usually pretty personal and things can get heavy, but there's still room for humor. So what topic will people see you to discuss in Speak and why did you choose it? Let's start with Noah this time.
So my speech is about the way we see suicide. It's like you said, an incredibly personal topic. My mom died of suicide the summer before my freshman year. And throughout my high school experience and talking to both adults and kind of kids my age, it felt like there was a huge misunderstanding of fundamentally what suicide is, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was like kind of a lot of rhetoric about it being a problem in and of itself, something that can be solved in and of itself. And for me, that's couldn't be farther from the truth, right? Suicide is a symptom of a lot of larger problems, depression, all this other sort of stuff. At the end of the day, it is a symptom. And I set out with my speech to kind of reframe the way we think about suicide, at least reframe the way we talk about
Yeah, no, I think your topic out of the five we saw, it might be the most divisive, but I really enjoyed hearing the part I did hear. I didn't get to hear the whole speech. Maybe I heard that the videos may be on a website soon. I definitely wanted to hear more. And it's such a emotional and personal topic and probably something that not many people would be brave enough to talk about. Could you talk about your topic, like how you prepare to talk about something so personal and like have your feelings on it evolved over time?
it. Yeah, I guess to start, this speech has always been incredibly important to me. And when I joined speech and debate and I learned what OO was my freshman year, immediately there were two things I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about the idolization of intelligence, especially in media, and the way we saw suicide. And after a lot of conversations with my coaches, it kind of felt like the speech and the idea was ready, but I wasn't, right?
Mm.
Both as a speaker and as a human being. So as you can imagine, like little, 14, 15-year-old Noah that had maybe been, uh, I don't know if this is a line that made the final cut of the movie or not. I can't quite remember, but there's a moment in my speech where I talk about a woman approaching me at my mother's funeral telling me that like basically she was going to burn in hell. So that like very much radicalized me. So a 14, 15-year-old Noah is very angry at the world because he thinks that the world hates his mom, basically.
Mm.
So kind of earlier on the process of drafting and writing this, even towards the end of my junior year, it was very much a speech about physician-assisted suicide. It was a speech about legalizing physician-assisted suicide. It was a speech about how like this is a fundamental right that we as human beings have. Right. There was a line that I remember writing where it's like a lot of people like to say the gift of life, and I believe life is a gift, and it's only a gift if we can choose to reject it. Right.
Mm.
Because if we can't, it's a burden. So that was kind of the mentality I had going into it. And as I grew as a human being, as I grew as a speaker throughout my, and especially in my senior season, as I was giving this speech week in, week out, did, I guess in a sense, just kind of get tired of being angry, right? I left this phase of thinking about it as like, no, this is a right. This is like something, you guys are wrong, and my mom is not all these things, and it's like, you guys are wrong, and I'm fighting for this. And it got a lot less radical, and the speech started to emphasize on the way we talk about suicide or the way we see our loved ones. And I think at some point in time there was a shift to where the speech was no longer about the departed. It was
Mm.
about those who remain. It was about
Mm.
keeping the people on Earth, as opposed to having respect for the people who have already departed or the people who want to. Right? It was about saving lives, not respecting the lives that had already been, if that makes
Mm.
sense. So I think that's like a very clear progression that I had both throughout the year and also in just the way I think about this topic, the way I think about this issue throughout my high school career.
Yeah, I appreciate everything you're saying. And I was like, yeah, your topic meant a lot to me. Sam, let's move on to you and your topic and how it related to your personal story.
So the catalyst for my topic last year was I was at this church camp and we did this like ropes challenge, I guess you could call it. And one of the obstacles was we were on a log. There's a group of guys and the task was, get from right side of the log to left side of the log without jumping off or you'll lose points. So the left side, they started hugging, spinning. Then it got to me. They sort of just, the one guy sort of paused and then suggested a different way to continue getting around everyone. To the untrained eye, I mean, it probably looked like, okay, let's just streamline efficiency. But then it slowed down. It slowed us down by probably 3 minutes. And to me, I was like, did this person really just refuse to touch me? So through that, with talking with other people and talking with my dad, and I love my dad very much, and he's not at all the villain of this story. But at the time, he was sort of struggling to understand that, and it was through like different memories that he had of his experience growing up and whatnot. Through that, I came to the topic of the weaponization of nostalgia. A very simple example that I used very early on was like the McRib. It's back on the menu for like a month each year, and in that month, it's like, oh my gosh, it's the McRib, it's back. And that's gone, right? It's whenever Nike releases a new shoe, it's really just a like retro version of an old shoe to sort of, emphasize that nostalgia that people have for like, oh, I love these shoes, and oh, now it's back. And then I really came to that, and it was really personal to me. But the thing that sort of helped me cope with that, I guess, is knowing that everyone in speech is willing or was they're willing to hear me, and the fact that I got to teach them and help them maybe realize where they could be going wrong in their perception or susceptibility to nostalgia. That was a really cool opportunity that I had.
Hmm. Yeah, that your story was, yeah, equally impactful in a different way because I feel like that would be me. Like, not, I mean, not just the way that it started with being at this camp and this challenge. And I'm not a super like adventurous type of person. I've never been an outdoorsy girl. So it sounded really, your description was terrifying, and you just really put us in the middle of it. And it also related because I grew up in the church environment and I've been at those types of camps, and you're right. Not everyone views it as a rose-colored glasses moment.
Yes.
So obviously there's good things about nostalgia too, though. So what do you think is the right balance? What's the correct way to use nostalgia, and is there a middle ground somewhere with that?
The right way to use nostalgia for me was looking back to specific examples of like civil rights movements, marches through history, all of those different positive examples that are very specific, because a lot of the times different phrases that were being used were referring to the good old days, and that encompasses so much. Like, okay, well, how far are you going back, because then that means so many people don't have rights, certain people don't exist, just crazy discrimination. And so it's looking to very specific examples of speeches given, protests, marches, and using that as motivation to then change the future instead of wanting to go back to the past. So it's using the past to change the future instead of using the past to become the past.
How did you guys come to oratory as your sport? Quote unquote.
Yeah,
I keep hearing it referred to as a sport. Like, how did you enter into that world?
I came to Oratory. So, for some context, my entire background is in musical theater. So, Oratory was not the first thing I did. It was my sophomore year, and for my English class, we did a persuasion unit. My English teacher also happened to be my speech coach, and she pulled me aside and said, "Hey, Sam, I think this would do really well on the speech circuit. I think you are a very great persuasive speaker. You should try this." And I completely ignored her and postponed it and kept putting it off like, yeah, I don't really want to, like, oratory scares me. Then eventually she broke through. I tried it, and that's what I've been doing ever since my sophomore year. So yeah, it took some persuasion of her, but that's how I got into oratory.
Mm-hmm. And how about you,
Uh,
Noah?
I come from a debate background. My school is very much like a debate school. So I was in and around debate freshman year and sophomore year. I started kind of doing maybe more speechy things with an event called Extemp, which is extemporaneous speaking. It's just where you give speeches about current events off the top of your head. And it's not until like I think December of my junior year that my coach pulled me aside and was like, "Hey, I think that these are the problems you have in your extemp. I don't think you're fluid. I don't think you like really know how to approach your audience as well as you could. And I think the solution to that is something called OO." So literally in a weekend, we whipped up an OO, and I took it to, I think the Longhorn Classic was the tournament. It's the tournament that UT hosts. And that was my first tournament of OO, and I did pretty well. And from then on, I was always pretty decent at OO. And kind of towards the end of the year, my junior year, was like, okay, this is something, this is what I want to commit to. This is like the thing I want to do. So I competed in all sorts of other stuff throughout my senior season. Kind of from, I'd say like 2 weeks from the end of my junior year on, like my main thing was OO.
So what was it like having cameras on you, and what sort of instructions were you given?
Okay. Um, I mean, it was definitely weird. I sort of got more used to it as the year and as the filming process progressed, but at the very beginning, I struggled so hard not to look directly into camera because it was just like way too tempting. It's like Nemo, like don't touch the butt. It was so hard not to look directly into camera. Eventually I got used to that though. But it was definitely weird being on camera 24/7 and knowing that really anything I could say or do could be used as representation. So really trying to pick what I was going to say very carefully and make sure it sounded like, I don't know, professional or whatnot, which was really silly because I should have just been myself.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was very much myself, and Sam, I think that a little bit of self-control was really good. That's, be grateful you had it, because I wouldn't say I did. It kind of, now tons of people have seen me drop like F-bombs and all sorts of crazy S's, and like, I'd say that, like Sam, throughout the beginning of the process, I did have a fair bit of like jimming the camera, where I would kind of be doing stuff, and like my friends would say stuff, and it wasn't even like, oh, these people are making a documentary, let me look at it. It was like, did you just get a load of what this kid just said? It's so easy to like, especially because we were on such good terms with Pam and Jen and Guy and the directors and everybody, honestly, on the crew. Even before we started filming, it was like really hard to not just use them as like people that we're having a conversation with. Um, and kind of on that note, a big thing for us is well, I was never really worried about like, even though I went kind of crazy and said all the things I said, and to me, there's like hours and hours of like B-roll footage of me being much more crazy than they showed me to be. Um, was never really, I guess, scared because we had met the filmmakers beforehand and they had kind of pitched us the vision and said this is what we're going for. There really wasn't a fear of the whole reality television thing of like they're going to cut different things together and like they're going to cut facial expressions that I made a week later to make it seem like this and that. Like, they were.
Mm.
I trusted the vision and I believed in the message they were trying to tell. So I trusted that they weren't going to take any words or facial reactions of mine and kind of take them out of context.
What's next for you guys? Like, what's happened since the documentary? They gave us a few facts at the end, but just anything you want to share about how your life right now?
It's funny you mentioned this because I kind of anytime somebody figures out about a documentary or like says like, wow, this is like big, you were at Sundance, you were at like all these film festivals, like people know who you are. It's kind of a weird conversation because one thing that gets brought up is like exposure, right? They're
Right.
like, wow, this is good exposure, like you're gonna do so much with this, and I was like, and I'm always thinking it's like I'm gonna do what exactly? Like I'm a college student, I want to study, foreign relations. I care about this issue. I continue to be an advocate for this issue in my day-to-day life. If any like outreach organizations about physicians who's like reached out and said, "Hey, we want to talk," and all that sort of stuff, I can definitely do it. But there's not a lot of like, I guess, public. I don't do a lot with my like day-to-day life publicly. I like
Mhm.
I go to school. I have friends. I play table tennis. So it's been kind of a weird experience balancing like a very small corner of my life where it's like, wow, I'm in something that a lot of people have seen. I potentially have touched a lot of hearts with my words. And the other 95% of my life is like kids don't care. And like my college friends are getting on my ass because like I look dumb in a scene or because they always use a picture and like when they're promoting the movie, there's like this picture that they use of me sitting in a tree. And I get like 15 texts. Every time it gets used, I get 15 texts from all my friends being like, you look stupid sitting in that tree. So I guess for me, it's been a little weird and hard to like think about what does this platform mean? For now, what the platform means is I get made fun of by my friends.
So yeah, Sam, what's next for you? I heard you were the lead in a school musical. I would love to know what the
Yes,
musical
so
was.
yeah, so at the beginning of this year we did the musical Big Fish and I played Edward. It's so much fun. Yeah. I love musical theater. I loved performing in that. Unfortunately, our school only does a fall musical. We don't do a spring musical because a lot of us do speech. So I'm still competing in speech. This weekend actually is our section tournament, and then the top three at sections go to state. The weekend after that is our national qualifying tournament. So the top three at nat quals go to nationals. So it's a stressful 2 weeks, but I'm excited. I'm looking forward to getting those results. And then in terms of the film, I mean, yeah, it's super awesome. Sort of like you two both got at, some of the freshmen at my school will stop me in the hall and be like, "Oh my gosh, you were in that documentary." Just sort of like poke fun at me, and I'm like, "Yep." Like, yes, I am. They think it's a lot more funny than it really is. But yeah, it was such a great opportunity. And I've had like several people reach out to me via Instagram DMs and whatnot saying that like they find representation in my story or sort of that common ground. And I'm ridiculously proud, I guess, or happy that I'm able to do that for other people. Because that's not really something that I like had to look for. And I'm super glad that's happening.
You guys were both fabulous to watch. The movie, I will say, is showing at many film festivals. So, for those of you that this intrigues you after hearing this interview, please do make an effort to see it, or I'm sure it will be on a platform soon enough. Theater is going to be picking this up, I'm sure, if they haven't already.
Mhm.
Well, Noah and Sam, thank you so much for your time. Really enjoyed speaking to both of you. And, good luck to you, whether
Thank
it's
you.
acting in a movie, being behind the scenes, or working on your classes at college and moving on to something better.
Thank you. It was super fun to be here.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.